Colorado. And it is a disability rights story. It is a housing rights story. It is a story about the way that our healthcare system allows people to fall through the cracks so that their already precarious situation somehow manages to get worse. So there's a story out of Denver pertaining to a Black man who's a quadriplegic. And the way that this man became a quadriplegic is absolutely going to break your heart. And content warning, everyone lives in this story, but these are tough circumstances that this man is facing. And I wanted us to be aware of it because of when it comes to unhousedness in America, we all are vulnerable to it, since in America everybody is what, a paycheck away from the streets, you know what I'm saying, by and large, or two paychecks away if you're lucky, two paychecks away from the streets. Okay, but what if you don't have a job? What if you're not physically able? What if your government services are not coming in a timely fashion? They're not filling the gap from when you have to leave one place and before your next place is available. What do you do then? I want us to go to Denver, and I believe this is the Fox affiliate there going to pick up the story. So let's take a look.
Housing, but is being evicted.
He claims Denver housing authorities dragging their feet on helping him secure a new spot. Fox 31 problem solver Gabby Easterwood on it for us tonight. Gabby.
Yeah, well, Erica, Jeremy, he's actually been disabled since 2005 after a UTI left a severe infection in his hands and feet. He says Denver Housing Authority did find him a place, but it wasn't accommodating for a quadriplegic person. So now he's scared for what's to come.
Dane Eisom and his sister surrounded by boxes. Boxes filled with 11 years of his life in this home off of Quebec.
Now, I just thank God to be alive, and when you like this, you can't take too much anything else. No trauma, wondering where you're gonna stay, where you're gonna go.
He's set to be evicted. Eisom says his rent went up last year and he simply can't afford it. But now he has nowhere to go.
It's unhumane to do somebody like this. I wouldn't do a dog like this.
He was ready to move into Kappa Towers off of Northfield, but his Section 8 voucher for that location wasn't approved.
Ain't no way you should be able to go to the housing authority and you can't get no help. And you got doctor's orders stating that I need this.
Eisom says he was also approved for a one-bedroom at another location, but with his medical supplies and chair, it wasn't nearly enough room.
They were going to give me a one-bedroom apartment. And they were going to give me a $700 voucher. I couldn't live off that. I couldn't live like that.
There has been some compassion from the homeowners, but time is running out, and Eisom just wants a safe place to call home.
Be faithful to God no matter what, and He will come through.
And we did reach out to Denver Housing Authority regarding Eisom's situation, and they sent us this following a statement. We are aware of Mr. Eisom's situation and have been actively working with him for the last 2 months. Now, after we received that, we pressed further with questions, but the Housing Authority representatives said they would not be providing anything more, but we will continue to keep asking questions. Live in studio, Gabby Easterwood.
Mr. Eisom became a quadriplegic as a result of a urinary tract infection that was not caught in time, and it spread that he had to have his hands and feet amputated from a UTI, gang. A urinary tract infection is easily treatable, and I wonder if Mr. Eisom realized that he had an infection. I would imagine that he did not. UTIs can be mighty sneaky. And sometimes in men, I'm not certain how it presents in women, but in terms of mood changes, urinary tract infections can make men very grumpy, right? They get irritable and they may not even understand or realize why they're irritable, right? And somebody pointed out to me, who wants to deal with a grumpy black man in the healthcare system, right? Like it's obvious that he was failed in this way, that unfortunately his hands and feet ended up being taken as a result of something very minor and very treatable. That is heartbreaking. And then to compound the situation with the fact that he's facing homelessness, unhousedness, and just the lack of accommodation, the lack of accessibility that this man encountered is something that disabled people of varying disabilities encounter on a daily basis. The world is not set up for disabled folks, and some of our things that we use to assist in mobility or even just in living, right? I'm devastated that this man found a place, but the place was too small to accommodate his medical supplies. I'm assuming he means maybe like a medical bed, like a hospital bed. Maybe the doorways were not wide enough to accommodate his wheelchair. Like, and because of that, he can't accept, not only could he not accept the housing, but it sounded like he had to give away some of his medical supplies as well. Things that he's going to have to replace at cost. And then let's talk about cost. The housing authority or the location that was accepting his Section 8 voucher was only going to give him $700. The average median rent in Metro Denver, I believe, is about $1,900, just under $2,000. That's the average rent in Metro Detroit, right around 2 stacks. They gave this man a $700 voucher. Stop fucking playing. Stop fucking playing. Where does this system stand up for someone like Mr. Eisom? This is the shit I be talking about, y'all. Like, I don't support upholding the empire if with all of its power and resource that it does not distribute fairly, to be clear, America, capitalist America, but with all of its power and resource, it is, I won't say unable, it refuses to look out for the most vulnerable and marginalized. A disabled black man living in poverty is amongst the most marginalized in this country. And this man is traumatized at the thought of being evicted. This story was only posted a couple days ago, and I'm going to try to follow it. I was kind of disappointed there was no links to support that was offered by the reporter. Let me see if I could do some due diligence on that. But really quickly, when looking at the story, I tried to drill down a little bit more on what the statistics of unhousedness, specifically in Denver, looks like, especially when it comes to people of color. And I found out some interesting things. First of all, population-wise, metropolitan Denver is about 84% white. It is about 5.9% black. It is about 0.2% or 0.02% Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander. I want to say it's 1.5% Native American. And I can't recall the numbers of Latinos and Asians. My apologies, because the populations I just named experience unhousedness very differently. So Metro Denver, 84% white. The homeless population in Metro Denver, how much of them are white? 64%. Okay. So relative to the overall population, within the unhoused population, white people are underrepresented, right? Follow me here. So 84% white in Denver. Out of the homeless people in Denver, 64% of them are white. Black people make up 5.9% of Denver's population. Of the homeless population, Black people make up 20%. Okay? Over 3 times as much. Represented over 3 times, like over 3 times as much. Denver's only 6% Black, 5.9%, but yet they're 20% of the unhoused population. Native Americans, 1.5% of Denver's population. They make up 5% of Denver's unhoused population. Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, 0.2% of the population overall. In the homeless population, they're like 1.5%. So it's like exponentially for people of color and for Black folks. They are experiencing unhousedness, being homeless in Denver, Colorado, which is an affluent place, if I'm not mistaken, Colorado. And shout out to Abby. I know Abby don't live in Denver, but you know, our folks out there, you know, it's in the mountains, but it costs to live in Denver. Denver ain't cheap out here, right? And if you are a Black person, brown person, woman, gay, disabled, you are going to experience that unhousedness way more than the average white person is. Okay. And this is why I can't stand up for America. I refuse. I sit down for the national anthem. Fuck this shit. You going to let Mr. Eisom get thrown out on the streets? You only going to give Mr. Eisom a $700 credit for housing? Oh, and by the way, and some of our folks who have relied on housing assistance, you know this. Just because you have a housing voucher, just because you got Section 8, just because you got approved by Section 8, which is a fucking lengthy ass process to begin with, just because you got approved for the shit, don't mean that you're going to find an apartment complex or a landlord that's going to accept it. And if Mr. Eisom is able to find somewhere to live, are they going to make his home accessible for him? Meaning are all of his needs and the aids that he uses for his life to live his life as normally as possible, is the spot going to be accommodating for that? Is it going to be, you know, remodeled or, you know, improved in any way so that Mr. Eisom can move safely throughout his own place? That's something everybody needs to be considering and thinking about, by the way. I've said this before, and most, especially physically disabled people, will tell you this. Like, yeah, ables, y'all motherfuckers can jog and run the 5K and see and hear. Y'all can do all this shit now. But at some point, you might get old, right? You might be elderly. You might be infirm. You might want to make sure that wherever you live has grab bars and shit, shower seats and all this shit. Like everybody is going to need some sort of accommodation for disability or chronic illness in some way. So as we create housing or build housing or improve upon already existing housing, you might as well go ahead and put them shits in there now. You know what I'm saying? Either selfishly, or, you know, not selfishly per se, but maybe, yeah, selfishly for yourself or for whoever might come there after you. Like, this is all stuff that needs to be part of the plan, part of the plan for how society progresses. And yet disabled people are frequently always left out of that plan. Just like, you know, how white people in fictionalized takes of the future, like Black people weren't there. they didn't, there weren't no Blacks in the future. No, there's no disabled in the future neither, right? I don't know what they plan on doing with all the Black disabled, but they have a plan. So anyway, we want to send not just solidarity, but if I can find a way for us to send some sort of material support to Mr. Eisom, I will absolutely share that. And fuck, if you've seen it, share it with me so I can tell the others, because again, I for what we can do, we need to do that. Even if we can't do a lot, we need to do the little that we are able to do. And if it's literally just trying to send this man a few dollars, then that's something that I think we can absolutely do. So we want to send love and solidarity and hopefully some action to Mr. Eisom.